Hi Year 4, it's Mrs Abbas here. Thought we could do a little bit of maths on fractions, and we are going to be recognising families of equivalent fractions. So by the end of the lesson, we'll know what equivalent fractions are. We'll be able to represent equivalent fractions using diagrams, and we might be able to justify and explain answers using jottings and diagrams to support me. So really quick recap. So you have to think way back now to Year 4 when we were at school. Equivalent fractions are two or more fractions that have the same value, even though they have different numerators, the number at the top of the fraction, and denominators, the number at the bottom of the fraction. Equivalent basically means equal. Okay, so they are worth the same, they're equal. And equivalent fractions are very, very important, especially as we get into Year 4, Year 5 and Year 6. And this is because they help us to simplify and compare fractions and also to order them. They help us when we are adding and subtracting fractions. And they also help us to share things equally between people. So it might be when you're sharing pizza, when you're sharing sweets, when you're sharing chocolate buttons, for example. And all of those things involve us being able to find equivalent fractions confidently. So you can see here in these three pictures that there is the exact same amount of pizza on each of these plates. So here's plate 1, plate 2 and plate 3. And you can see there is the exact same amount of pizza. But here, the pizza has been split into 2 equal parts, and left is the 1 out of 2, which means there is 1/2 of a pizza left. This whole pizza has been split into 4 equal parts. It's been split into quarters, and there are 2 parts left, so there are 2 quarters. And again here, this whole pizza has been split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts, and there are 3 slices out of the 6 left, so 3/6. But in the diagram you can see it is the exact same amount, okay? So equivalent fractions have the same value, even though we can see at the bottom here they are written differently, okay? The numerator, the top number, will represent the amount of sections eaten in our case, and the denominator, the bottom number, will represent the total amount of equal parts that the pizza has been split into. So we can see here, like we said, the pizza has been split into 6 equal parts, so the denominator is 6, and 3 out of those 6 have been eaten. So 3/6 have been eaten. Now, sometimes we don't have diagrams to help us find our equivalent fractions. We might be shown fractions, equivalent fractions, that have missing numerators or denominators, and this is where we must know and use our times tables knowledge to help us. So here's my example. 3/5 is equal to, or is equivalent to, or is the same as 9. We don't know the denominator, okay? But this is where I've got to use my times tables knowledge. Now, when I look at 3 here, this numerator, I need to consider what has happened to that 3 to reach 9. So if I were to count in my 3's, 3, 6, 9, 3 has been multiplied by 3. Now, there is always a rule with fractions. Whatever you do to the numerator, you must do to the denominator. So I multiplied 3 by 3 to reach 9. So I now must multiply 5 by 3. So let's count in 5s 3 times. 5, 10, 15. So my denominator here would be 15, which we can see here. So 3/5 is equivalent, equal to, the same as 9/15. Now I've took it that little bit further to find another equivalent fraction. So we can see here, 3 multiplied by 3 made 9. Now we found another equivalent fraction, but this time we're missing the numerator. So we can go to the denominators and see what has been done. So 5 was multiplied by 3, and that made 15. 15 was multiplied by something, to make 45. So I can count in my 15s, 15, 30, 45. It has been multiplied by 3. So because I've multiplied by 15 by 3, I must do exactly the same to the numerator. So I must do 9 multiplied by 3. Counting my 9s, 9, 18, 27. So the numerator here is 27. So 9/15 is equivalent to 27/45, as it is equivalent to 3/5. Okay, so I multiplied by 3 because whatever I do to the numerator, I must do to the denominator. What I would like to do now is to have a go. So there's one example here and another example here. You can pause the video, you can have a go on a piece of paper, maybe on an iPad if you've got it in front of you, and when you replay the video, you will have the answers there ready for you. So how did you get on with that? Now I've jotted in the answers in red so that you can see what the correct answers are. Now, if you got them right, excellent, well done. If you made a mistake, that is absolutely fine. Have a look now at my answers and maybe start to unpick where you made a mistake. It might be that you only made one mistake, and that might be down to your times tables. So if that were me and I'd made a mistake with my times tables, I would be jotting down my 3s or my 6s or my 9s, whichever it is that I am counting in, to make sure that my answers are accurate. Now I can also check my answers. So I said here that 20/30 is equivalent to 2/3. Now the way I can check that is by simplifying this fraction using a common factor. Now I know that 20 and 30 are both divisible by 10. If I divided 20 by 10, so how many 10s going to 20? That would be 2. And if I divided 30 by 10, how many 10s going to 30? It would be 3. So I would have 2/3. 20/30, the simplified, is 2/3. Okay, so they are equivalent to one another. So now I would love it if you could apply your learning to your own questions. You've really got to have a think now. A pizza is cut into 8 slices. So here's my pizza. Zara says if I take half of the pizza and my brother takes 4 slices, we will both have the same amount. Is she correct? And I want you to convince me by using a diagram. So I will start you off. Here's my pizza, and I'm going to cut it into 8 slices. Okay, so here are my 8 slices. Now, Zara says that she's going to take half of the pizza, so you need to identify how many slices is half, and then her brother is going to take 4 slices. So what is the fraction if he takes 4 slices? Will they both have the same amount like she says? See if you can do some jottings to work it out. Then I would love it if you could send in some of your answers to children@stalbansceacademy.com.